Now we will look at interventions that are classroom focused. Daniel has proved to be a bright student when he engages in classroom activities. However, Daniel spends a fair amount of time disobeying instructions from his teacher. When the teacher instructs him to stay on task, Daniel will reluctantly ignore the teacher's wishes and remain distracted. In order to keep him engaged, the teacher must communicate with Daniel and help him feel valued, heard, and understood. How can a teacher approach this and involve Daniel more in classroom activities? Collaborative problem solving, also known as CPS, is a cognitive behavioral model of intervention. Adults can learn different approaches of understanding challenging behaviors by using CPS. At the core of the CPS process, adults communicate with students and work together to solve the problems that result in challenging behaviors. In a classroom of 25 to 30 students, there are 25 to 30 different needs. A one-size-fits-all approach to classroom management is not reasonable. So what kind of plan would best fit Daniel's situation? In regards to Daniel's reluctance to follow instructions, there may be a few contributing factors. According to Green, there are two plans that would address this: Plan B and Plan C. Keep in mind, Plan A should be avoided, as it excludes Daniel's perspective and is based on an adult's perspective. This plan has a unilateral approach to problem solving. Also, rewards for compliance and punishment for non-compliance may not address Daniel's lack of engagement alone. We must involve him in the classroom more and reach out to him. Plan B consists of 3 steps. Step 1 is the empathy step, where the teacher gathers information based on Daniel's perspective. This step may take a little time, but eventually the student will open up to expressing their views. Step 2 is defining the problem. This is when the teacher or caregiver provides Daniel with their perspective on the unsolved problem and why it should be solved. Clearly, a teacher should take the time to embrace all of their students and get to know them as individuals, including Daniel. Finally, step 3 is the invitation step, where the teacher or caregiver and student collaboratively brainstorm and come up with some solutions. By applying this intervention plan, Daniel can participate in collaborating and creating a solution for his unsolved problem, instead of an adult solving it unilaterally. Plan C is for the other situations at hand, including Daniel's underperformance in school subjects and his inability to buy lunch due to his socioeconomic status. Instead of facing every issue head-on, perhaps eliminating some unsolved problems temporarily would prevent everyone from being overwhelmed. This plan requires teachers and parents to set some priorities and face only a few issues at a time. The teacher must involve Daniel in the classroom more by planning lessons that are more engaging. If Daniel is seeking peer acceptance, perhaps the teacher could come up with an activity where each and every student is responding to questions that relate to the classroom content. An instructivist-based intervention directly targets student improvement in behavioural and academic performance. Unlike CPS, this approach is teacher-based. Daniel can build on his behavioural momentum by complying and participating in teacher directives that will heighten the likelihood of Daniel responding to classroom tasks and activities. A great way to do this would be to involve a call and response card system. This is where the teacher writes a set of questions on cards, and students draw a card from a hat. Each card will contain a question and a list of potential answers. The students are required to respond to questions based on their current knowledge. This intervention would be suitable for Daniel because it is age appropriate, it is beneficial for all students, and it would strengthen the classroom community and introduce game-based learning in a safe environment. Students are constantly forming relationships with their peers in the classroom. A number of paired and group relationships will be amongst the classroom environment, as well as a relationship between student and teacher. This intervention allows students to revise their work, build on relationships, and it can reduce the chances of Daniel being distracted. The classroom environment is enriched. and Daniel is encouraged to engage in the classroom content and remain on task.